I thank you all for joining us at 8 o'clock. If you're in Seattle on a Monday morning, I think, yeah, y'all are ready troopers. So, so it's nice to have you all. Um, as as you already heard, my name is Amity Neumeister. I'm resident director of the Rome Center. And let me first actually start off by saying that although the title of the talk is Exploring the World Virtually, I'm going to narrow what I talk about today about Rome because that's obviously where I am. It's what I know and what I love. But in kind of exploring all of the world of virtual travel, I think that you can take the ideas that I'll share with you today about how I would explore Rome virtually and extrapolate those to whatever city you might be interested in visiting virtually for now, and hopefully, fingers crossed, sometime in the near future, actually in person. So just a little bit about me. I've lived in Rome for about 5 years now, and I have to say I'm still in awe of all of the things that there are to do and see and explore in this beautiful city. Um, I first fell in love with Rome when I studied abroad in college. I actually studied abroad in Siena for about 6 months and then actually dropped out of school and moved to Rome and lived there for about a month before I came back home. And I really fell in love with the city at that point, though, and so came back every single year and pretended to live here for like 2 weeks at a time and would work remotely and things like that. But finally got the push and the will to move here in 2015. At the time, I was still working for the School of Medicine, the UW School of Medicine, and was able to actually keep my job and work remotely here for a couple of years before I transitioned into my current role as resident director at the Rome Center. And for those of you who actually might not be familiar with the Rome Center, I don't know how many of you knew that we actually exist. The Rome Center was founded in 1985 by Astra Zarina, and she was a UW architecture faculty member who had been bringing students of architecture to study abroad here in Rome since 1970. And we're located in this beautiful building called Palazzo Pio. You can't really see a lot of it because I'm sitting right on the terrace of the fourth floor, but here's part of it, Palazzo Pio. It was built in I was going to say 1450. And it was a private palace basically for about 2 or 3 centuries. And in the late 1800s, it was purchased by the current owner, who is Istituto Tato Giovanni. They're an ecclesiastical organization, of course, associated with the Vatican. And it was originally, when ITG took it over, it was originally used as a workshop and dormitory for orphaned boys, where they taught them skills like carpentry and masonry work, which I kind of love that connection because it was basically educational space from the start when they opened in the late 1800s. So fast forward then to the early 1980s when Astra discovered this space. The building had actually been largely abandoned for at least 50 years. So you can imagine it was it was in a pretty large state of disrepair and needed a ton of renovation work, which some of her architecture students actually helped to actually design and renovate the space. And it was then formally inaugurated in 1985 and was first primarily just used for architecture study abroad students, but then later other disciplines, basically all disciplines, come to Rome normally. I was going to say now, but normally come to Rome. And we host about 30 UW programs per year and about 300 to 400 students every year. So, of course, as you probably guessed, that all came to a screeching halt last March when we had to send about 80 of our winter quarter students home about 2 weeks before the end of the quarter. And we all know how much life has changed since then. So, which brings us to our current topic today of virtual travel and how do you set about going to do so? And I think when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about and how do we travel virtually, how do we even think about that? I think that, how you explore a city, whether it's virtual or in person, really depends on your tastes and your interests, and, whether or not you're a history buff or you like art or architecture or food and people watching, my favorites. So what I've put together for you all today is kind of a whole smorgasbord of different ideas about how you might explore Rome virtually, what it has to offer to get you kind of just your appetite whet for what it might be to explore Rome or another city that you want to travel to virtually and hopefully in person and soon. I do have to say, after doing lots of research on travel, virtual travel, I found that there are a myriad of ways to go about doing it. As you can imagine, there's a ton of websites with as much information as you could possibly want on Rome itself. But I think the idea of virtual travel is having more of an experience than, reading something online. And what I've discovered, as we all have, is that there are new ways of interacting with the world, and there are new ways of interacting in the travel environment. And travel companies have become really innovative in offering virtual tours live with guides walking through the city of Rome, walking through the piazzas, taking people through guided tours of the Vatican or the Colosseum or the Forum, and all of the sites that you may have heard of and may have seen in person in the past, but of course can't come to and visit right now. So, and a lot of these companies offer customized tours, so you can even decide in advance, okay, what do I want to see? What do I want to learn about? And create a customized tour for yourself. If, of course, a live guide isn't within your budget, which it might not be, there are a lot of pre-recorded videos and things online that you can follow. Companies like Rick Steves have put together audio guides that are free, and you can listen to the Colosseum while you look at a live cam or a pre-recorded camera going through and flying over the Colosseum, for example. There's also a lot of webcams actually in different piazzas and on streets in Rome, and you can look at those if you're interested in kind of seeing what daily life looks like right now, which, as you can imagine, is a little bit quieter than normal since there aren't any tourists here in Rome right now. So before we launch into my kind of virtual itinerary for exploring Rome, I do have a surprise for you. I have a friend and tour guide extraordinary, Rachel Zitten. She is actually down below us because I didn't show you the view yet. She's in Campo dei Fiori, and she's going to give you a little taste of what a live tour looks like. She's going to share with you some information about Campo dei Fiori and also walk you over to Piazza Navona. So I'm going to turn it over to her. And oh, there she is! Yay! She's down below. I don't know if I can see you. Yes, she's waving. Okay, she's right there. Oh, I'm pointing to my computer. That doesn't help. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Rachel, all you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Rome downstairs. That was really funny. I couldn't see you before, Amity, and I was like, wait, where is she? And then I was like trying to figure out. So Amity is right up. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Wait, she is right there.
Yep,
Right?
exactly.
No. Yep, there she is. And
Maybe.
I am down below in Campo dei Fiori. And I know I just read in the chat that a lot of, or some of you, well, maybe one of you said you'd been here. I would get you to write in the chat if you've been here, but I guess we can talk about that afterwards. So as Amity just said, virtual travel, you know what I'm going to do? Because I promise I really am the only person here. I'm just going to give you my face for 2 seconds before we start walking so that I will remask. I do think that a masked tour virtually, it's a lot of hardware that I'm not used to as a tour guide. But as Amity was just saying really brilliantly, we're all reinventing ourselves, and tourism and travel in general has really changed. And I, as Amity just said, I've been working as a tour guide in Rome for the past 10 years now. And needless to say, this year has been a major year of reinvention. And one of the things that at first didn't have a lot of traction and now has become a much bigger event is this virtual tour idea, going on virtual tours and getting to see, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. going on virtual tours, getting to see what the city looks like right now. So I'm just going to give y'all a really quick little giro, a quick little tour. And what I actually want to start off by saying, so we're down here in Campo Fiori, and as I already pointed out, Amity is in the Rome Center, right above my head and to the whatever direction that is. And today is a really big and exciting day for all of us in Rome, because we have been, yeah, is it cold? It's honestly, no. It's what, 60s? I don't know. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina originally. I know a lot of y'all are in Seattle. So for me, I mean, it's not hot, but it's been colder for a while now. And today is actually just this like incredibly bright sunshine filled day, even though it did rain before, because 40s. We've been on lockdown and restaurants and bars haven't been opened. Pretty much there was a couple days in the beginning of January, but more or less it's been since before Christmas. So today everyone is out and about and getting drinks in sort of a socially distanced outdoor way. So Campo dei Fiori, which if y'all have been here, is normally packed with humans, does have more people than I've seen here in over a month. So pretty exciting. And without further ado, Campo dei Fiori. So Campo dei Fiori literally means, and I'm going to remask just to, respect people. Campo dei Fiori literally translates to a field of flowers. And the reason why it's called a field of flowers is really, really simple, which is because before the Renaissance, it was a field of flowers, big old field of flowers. And then in the Renaissance, this square that we are in right now became a central meeting point for the people who lived in this area of Rome. So one of the fun things about Campo dei Fiori is that all of the little streets, so all of the little side streets that go down different alleys, like the two behind me and the one we're about to walk down, are named for the trade guilds that were set up on these streets in the 1500s, so in the Italian Renaissance period. So the road right behind me, kind of comically, is called Via dei Giubbonari, which means the road of the tailor. And the reason why it's comical is because today, as Amity can attest, the road of the tailor is literally filled with clothing stores. Obviously a different kind of clothing. They don't make them all in shop, but basically still sort of retaining its original characteristics, or its original character, sentiments, sensations. So Campo dei Fiori would have been a major gathering space for people in the Renaissance. And the most famous resident of Campo dei Fiori, besides the Rome Center, obviously, is Giordano Bruno, who is right behind me. So looks a little bit like a sort of a Darth Vader character from Star Wars. Can everyone see him decently well? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so the statue of him was actually put there in 1889 after Rome unified and became a country. But he is a man, if you haven't heard of him, I'll explain who he is really quickly. He is the first person in modern history who suggested the existence of the cosmos. He was a Dominican priest, and as a Dominican priest, he explained to the powers that be, the Catholic Church, that if God's love for him was infinite, he also believed that the universe was infinite, which is a pretty good way for a Catholic priest to sort of get away with explaining something so radical about astronomy 500 years ago. The church didn't like that very much, and he was actually fled to England before eventually coming back to Rome, saying a lot of other relatively radical statements. And eventually Giordano Bruno, by the Roman Inquisition in 1599, was burnt alive on the spot right behind me in front of all of the people who would have lived in this neighborhood. So Giordano Bruno, his burning was especially gruesome. He had a gag ball in his mouth, which is still in Rome's Criminology Museum today, which actually I believe is online. Super cool. Not the gag ball, the little tour of the Criminology Museum. And with that gag ball, he was not burnt alive with wood, which for all of us in America, I feel like when we hear of people being burned alive, or maybe it's just me that makes this association, I always think of the Salem witch trials, where people have big wood around them and then the wood is set on fire. Actually a more humane way to die, because when you are burnt alive with wood, you are suffocated by the smoke. Giordano Bruno was tarred, covered in tar, which means he physically burnt alive from the outside in, which is horrific. And he was not recognized as important to sort of astronomical history until after Italy became its own country and was no longer under the rule of the papacy. So the statue behind me wasn't erected until 1889, like I said before. And today he is recognized. I'm going to start walking now, but he actually in Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos, which some of you might have seen. It's a whole DVD set about astronomy. And Neil deGrasse Tyson recognizes him as basically the sort of father of astronomy. So, salve. Everyone loves a good random foreigner speaking in English, walking with a selfie stick. It's pretty weird these days. So we are now going to walk really quickly over to Piazza Navona. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to turn y'all around, because this, for me, as I've been doing virtual tours, obviously not quite as often as I was doing regular tours in my previous life, but pretty regularly, one of the most shocking things, if you've been to Rome, is just to see how incredibly empty it is. So the city, like I said, is actually much more vibrant today than it has been for the past couple of, oh, I'm so glad you love it. Me too. More vibrant than it has been for the past couple of, really the past month and a half, but still quite empty. And just sort of starting to come alive again slowly but surely. So one of the most amazing things I think about the city of Rome in general as a place to live and visit is that it's always for me felt a bit like a village, even when it was incredibly busy and incredibly full. It's a city that is small, relatively speaking. Really quickly interrupting myself to show y'all the types of things we have right at our doorstep. So here's a little bakery selling all kinds of things, including, yeah, right, pizza, strudels, little cherry tarts. They're calling this a ravioli, which is funny, but it's really just a cherry tart also. So there's a little bakery. Now we're gonna keep on walking. I'll turn myself around so that you guys get the full thing. Yes, the morning market, that's a wonderful question. The morning market is still up and running. It does have social distancing rules, needless to say. So the social distancing rules in the market mean that not every single stand is opened, but it has been reopened really because a market, needless to say, is a necessity. It's been reopened since, oh, Amity, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's been reopened since May, since like the lockdown ended. And then yeah, as you said, it closes down every afternoon. So Campo dei Fiori, what I always used to joke with people, and this probably, well, you all work and study abroad, but I'll say it anyways, because what I always said to people is Campo dei Fiori in the morning is a market. And then by the early afternoon, it becomes a place to get a really beautiful aperitivo, a nice drink. And then after about 10 p.m., it does sort of become the watering hole for Rome's many, many, many study abroad students and study abroad programs. Needless to say, something that I think they, in April, that makes sense. Needless to say, Campo dei Fiori and all of the bars there are certainly losing business. Well, I guess all of the hospitality industry is like that. So anyways, Rome is, where was I saying before I got to bakeries? Ooh, I lost my train of thought. Before bakeries, I was saying that, that Rome is a small city, right? So Rome, as a relatively small city, everything is very accessible, like right downstairs from wherever you're standing, you have a bakery like we just saw, you have markets, you have places you can get fresh meats and fresh cheeses and fresh wine. And because even though it is a capital European city, I was saying it doesn't have any skyscrapers, which if you've never been to Rome is kind of shocking and stunning when you first get here. And the reason for that is actually because in the early 1900s, when the Vatican City became its own country, one of the rules that was instilled when the Lateran Treaty was signed by Mussolini in 1929 is that you are not allowed to build any building higher than St. Peter's Basilica. So similar to how in Washington, D.C., you can't build higher than the Capitol, here you cannot build higher than St. Peter's, which gives Rome a really small town kind of a feel. So we have arrived at our final destination on our short little walk, which is, yeah, I'm going to show you the, Carmen, I'm going to show you the cobblestones too in just a second, because so this is, I would say my favorite piazza in Rome, but it's my favorite piazza in the entire world, easily and without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, in Philadelphia, I was actually, Jesse, I was born in Philadelphia. So exactly. So this is Piazza Navona, and Piazza Navona has always had my entire heart. And I actually have to admit that in this time period of lockdown, one of, for me, the most beautiful sort of characteristics of daily Roman life is being able to see this piazza, which used to be really just for tourists, be completely reclaimed by locals. So the square itself has 3 stunning fountains in it. I will walk you to the one in the middle and then hand the mic back over to Amity. But I will say really quickly, just because it just drew my attention, and I like showing people this. So I'm going to squat down and show you. Someone was talking about the cobblestones. One of the strangest things that has happened in this lockdown is that obviously there is much less human traffic, much less foot traffic walking through these squares. So all of this grass that is growing in Piazza Navona, I have talked to people who have lived in Rome. I've talked to a friend of mine's grandfather who is in his 80s, and he said it hasn't been like this in 50 years, where you have this much grass because there is such a small amount of people walking in it. So kind of it's actually not good either. It's really pretty, but grass does, I don't really understand how this works, but it's not good for cobblestones. However, so they're like trying to kill it and trying to figure out what to do with it. But it is kind of a beautiful example of just how few people there are. So here is our first little fountain. It's called the Fountain of the Moor. Right behind it is actually the Brazilian embassy to Rome. So one of the strangest things I think about Rome is not only is it one of the most, I mean, I would argue and be biased and say the most important city in the entire, historically speaking, city in the entire world. It's also the capital city of Italy, right? So we have embassies as well as the political center. In fact, the Roman Senate House, modern Senate, not ancient Senate's a little further away. Modern Senate House is just right on the other side of Piazza Navona. So Rome is also the political center of the city. Oh, hey, look, there's no water in it today. That's funny. All right, so I will very quickly show you. This is the Church of St. Agnes in Agone, which means St. Agnes in the Games. It is closed today, built in the 1650s by an architect named Borromini. And then this is the grand masterpiece of Piazza Navona. It's called the Four Rivers Fountain, the Fountain of the Four Rivers. It was done by an artist named Gian Lorenzo Bernini. It currently, actually, I'm going to tell you a really funny story, and then I'm going to hand the mic back to Amity. If you have ever seen the movie Angels and Demons, it's really funny that the fountain is empty. Angels and Demons, not my personal favorite movie, not an incredibly historically accurate movie. Hilariously, there's a scene in Angels and Demons where Tom Hanks' character shows up in Piazza Navona. It is empty, and on the bottom of the screen it says 9 p.m. Now today, Piazza Navona is empty around 9 p.m., but when the movie's made, / any time pre-pandemic, it was not. And Tom Hanks comes running to this fountain, spoiler alert, to save a priest who's being drowned, and he just does a full dive right into this fountain, which, as you can see, is approximately 1.5 to 2 feet deep. So decidedly inaccurate. And for more information about the fountain, dun dun dun, you can contact me, I guess, is really, I mean, I'm not at all pitching myself. I'm doing this as a beautiful favor for Amity, but I will say if anyone's interested, at the end, Amity can write my website, or I can write my website into the chat. My name's Rachel Zitten. My website is rachelzitten.com. And it has been an absolute and complete honor to be here with all of you. So yeah, I'll hand the mic back to Amity, say goodbye, and you are so welcome. Thank you all. And until we can real travel, right? So I will say what we're all hopeful for, what we're all just crossing our fingers and praying and our toes and everything, is that by the spring, travel will start to become a thing again. And I know I'm biased and Amity's biased, and all we're going to talk about to you all is Rome today, but the lights just came on. Come to Rome. So yeah, thank you guys so much. And I'll hand it back to Amity.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was awesome.
You're so welcome. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. All right. Well, hopefully that got you excited about coming to Rome in person, but also what an experience of a virtual tour might look like. And what I have put together for you, as I said, is kind of an itinerary of all of the things that I would do if I were planning a trip to Rome or planning a virtual trip. What I've also done is actually put links on all of the pages, so that you can click on the links and go directly to, some of them are like 360 virtual tours. Some of them are static websites with just lots of information and pictures. Some of them are links to tour companies that do live tours. So there's kind of a variety, and I put together what I think would be a fabulous trip, and hopefully you can take some notes, and of course we'll have the presentation for you available afterwards, and you can explore it on your own. So I am going to share with you my presentation, and I realized when I was talking before that I didn't show you some pictures that I just gathered. So this is a picture of Astra Zarina. She is the founder of the Rome Center, which I shared with you all before. And I love this picture because she looks very, very joyous, and of course is enjoying her wine and a cigarette in the 1970s when everybody was smoking. Let me see if I can get the slides to move forward. And they're not. So just a second. Okay, there we are. Here's a picture of Palazzo Pio. So as I had mentioned before, that's where we are located. Just a little bit more about the palazzo itself. They actually, you can't see it, but down below in the piazza right in front of it, they excavated and found a huge statue, a bronze statue of Constantine, which is now in the Vatican museums. And one other very interesting thing about our palazzo is that it was actually built on the Theater of Pompey, which is a not in existence anymore, but it's built on a historic site and is kind of renowned or known for having been the site at which Julius Caesar was murdered. So lots of history happening in this part of the Rome Center, or I mean of the center of Rome, not the Rome Center. This is just a picture of our conference room here and some classrooms, just to give you a little taste of the Rome Center. And sorry, my slides are moving very slowly. Previous study abroad students here enjoying a talk with one of our faculty members, Odai. And okay, so where to start? I would start with museums when I'm exploring a city. Again, this is my itinerary, my ideas, but you all would be able to, of course, take what is interesting to you and leave what is not. I think one of the most famous museums in Rome is, of course, the Vatican, and the Vatican is actually, I think, a collection of something like 30 different museums. They have a ton of information on their website right now with virtual tours of each of the rooms. And I'm just going to put the chat back on so I can see what you're saying. Oh, but then you guys can see it as well. Sorry, ceiling is beautiful. Does the Rome Center rent out rooms to non-student employees during low season? Yes, it does actually. So we do have currently 2 apartments available right now. If you want to come over right now. And we do normally rent them out to UW associates when we don't have faculty or students staying in them. We, just an aside, we have 2 of the 3 floors that we occupy in the building are actually under renovation right now. So they're completely torn apart, at least the 3rd floor is. The 1st floor is almost done, and we do have another apartment on the 1st floor as well. Okay, so Vatican museums. This is the Sistine Chapel that you're looking at. And again, like I said, there are 360 virtual tours that the Vatican has put together. And also they do live tours, live virtual tours. So that's a great place to start. There's a ton of course, very historic artwork. They also have a fair amount of modern art at the Vatican, which is quite interesting. The next, sorry, my slides are very slowly moving forward. Sorry, I'm just looking at your notes. Yes. A virtual tour would let you linger. I can't get my slides to advance. I think it's because my presentation is so big. Sorry, let me see. Yep. Okay. Next one, Villa Borghese or Borghese Gallery. This is one of my most favorite museums because one, it's small. Two, under normal circumstances, you can only stay there for 2 hours, so you can't linger. But it's just way more digestible than something, for example, like the Vatican, which can be overwhelming. The Vatican can take 4 hours at a minimum, and Borghese, you only get 2 hours, but there's only, I think, something like 8 rooms. This is one of my favorite statues there. It's Daphne fleeing Apollo, and it's by Bernini. So definitely the Borghese would be a highly recommended place to visit. And right now, of course, they are offering virtual tours as well. The
Misty?
Yes.
Sorry, for some reason, we can't see your screen anymore. I think you stopped sharing. Just
Oh, so you're just looking at me. Okay.
yeah, that's totally fine.
Beautiful sculpture. Voila. No. Thanks. Let me try to share it again. Your screen. There we go. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
This
Thank you.
Let me go back one. I think it's not liking me going back and forth with my slides, though, is the problem.
Yeah, sometimes I have trouble too when I'm.
Okay. That's the Bernini that I was talking about. Daphne fleeing Apollo. Okay. So my third recommended museum would be the Capitoline Museums. Again, they're offering virtual tours. You could also do one with a live guide. This museum has a ton of Caravaggios, which is, I think it's most famous for, and lots of other amazing work. This is Castel Sant'Angelo. I have to admit, I've never been to Castel Sant'Angelo, and I've walked by it a million times, but apparently it has amazing artwork as well. So your homework is to go do a virtual tour of Castel Sant'Angelo and tell me what you find. The Quirinale is another great museum. They had a really famous exhibit last year, Raffaello, and unfortunately I wasn't able to go see it because it was all booked up, but they have a virtual tour of it. It's the largest collection of Raphael paintings that they've put, and work that they've ever put together. So highly recommend doing a tour of that. And I wanted to share this one as well, because we tend to think of Rome as full of lots of beautiful old things. And we also have actually a fair amount of modern artwork as well. And so the National Gallery of Modern Art has several different viewing options. Again, static, their static website with art displayed on it, but also virtual tours. So that's a kind of just a snippet of some of the museums that you might be interested in. Archaeological sites, of course, we have a ton. You can guess the Colosseum would be the first one. There are so many different ways to enjoy the Colosseum right now. Just like Rachel provided, there are live tours, guides doing live tours, but you can also view it with like a drone flying overhead. You can also listen to an audio guide, like I mentioned earlier, to learn more about the history of the Colosseum and its current state as well. The Forum right next to it has all of the same options. It's an iconic place, and when you do come in person, there is a virtual reality tour that they do, and you can actually see what the Forum looked like when it was actually in its heyday. Trajan's Market, also right next to the Forum, similar ideas. They do have a virtual tour as well as virtual reality when you can come in person. Pantheon, amazing, definitely an iconic site, something to see when you're here, something that you can explore virtually right now. Terme di Caracalla, little less known. The Terme is a hot springs, and they were used as baths in ancient times. It's now actually used as a concert hall and has some more modern things. You can also get married. There's it's one of like the 3 places that's not a church where you can get married in Rome. And actually a couple of months ago, a couple of my friends got married there. So, but they offer as well virtual tours, and it's a little less known site that I always recommend people explore when they come here, and also of course virtually. A little outside of Rome is Hadrian's Villa. It's a beautiful garden, and they have virtual tours available as well. And I've put a link to this place as well. All right, So I'm just kind of speeding through. I'm not seeing any questions, so I don't, oh, let me see, because I'm not. Yes, I remember, I can't see your slides now. Okay, good. Borghese, yes. All right. So piazzas and outdoor markets. I love going to the piazzas in Rome, and it's super fun to explore them. Like I said, Campo dei Fiori has a camera that you can look at what's going on live. Piazza Navona, as we just got the delight to visit with Rachel, you can take a walking tour actually from any starting location through various piazzas, and I think that would be a super fun thing to do right now virtually. Piazza del Popolo is about a 15-minute walk from here. It's just below Villa Borghese. And, oh, just taking a look there. Great. And it's a very popular piazza, and again, right below Villa Borghese. Campo dei Fiori, which we've just seen, and you've seen Bruno. What's interesting about Campo dei Fiori, like Rachel had shared, is that it is a working outdoor market. So lots of people do their grocery shopping there every single day in the morning times. And so it functions, of course, as a meeting place, but also as a market. Testaccio Market is a little less known. I think it's kind of off of the beaten path, but it's an amazing, huge market in the neighborhood called Testaccio, and they are offering virtual tours. I actually also saw a relatively recent cooking show with, oh dear, I'm gonna blank on his name, Jamie Oliver. I'm messing it up, but anyway, he was doing a cooking class in the Testaccio market. So that's a great place to explore, just to see how Romans shop and what kind of food they have, and what the market scene looks like here. Basilicas and churches. Of course, you can't come to Rome or explore Rome without exploring the churches and larger basilicas of Rome. Of course, even if you're not religious, there are amazing works of art in all of them. I just have picked a few just to highlight. St. Peter's Basilica, of course, attached or within the Vatican City. And it is an enormous church. If you've ever been inside, I think it actually is larger than a football field, if I have my facts correct. And you can explore it virtually right now. Santa Maria Maggiore is one of the big 5 churches. This one is in the neighborhood called Monti, and it's an exquisite church as well. And Santa Maria sopra Minerva, I included in it in this presentation just because it's one of my favorite churches. It's got a super unique ceiling with the blue stars, or the blue sky and stars. And there's some beautiful works by Michelangelo that are quite unusual and definitely something to explore. Again, all of these have virtual tours, and I've put links with information where you can learn more about this church and all of the other things that I'm sharing with you. So moving on, fountains, bridges, steps, lots to see, so much. Of course, Trevi Fountain. This looks like actually a relatively old picture now that I'm looking at it. The Trevi Fountain was actually restored by Fendi, paid for the project about 3 or 4 years ago to restore it. So it's quite white and pristine now. It's quite interesting to take a look on it. They do have a live video cam on the Trevi right now, because there are hardly any human beings around it right now, which is quite unusual. If you've been there before, you know that it's normally teeming with people. So it's a beautiful place to visit right now, again, even virtually. Rome is, of course, divided by the Tevere, the Tiber River, and so many of the bridges have their own story, their own histories, and you can take a tour of the bridges. This is Ponte Sisto, which connects, this is Trastevere over on the left, and the Campo dei Fiori area on the right, where we are located, and this is St. Peter's in the back there. And the Spanish Steps, one of several famous stairwells or steps in Rome as well, that is overlooked by the Chiesa, the Spanish church. And strangely enough, the Spanish Steps, you can't sit on them anymore. I mean, I guess it's not strange. They're trying to preserve them because people were sitting on them too much and apparently wearing down the marble. But again, a beautiful pit stop on a tour, a walking tour, should you take one through Rome with a virtual guide. Okay, moving on to parks. Sorry, I'm moving through all of these points, but I want to make sure that we have enough time for a little bit of Q&A. So some of my favorite parks in Rome, Villa Pamphili, of course, is, I think, my favorite. This is a picture of the actual villa itself, but Villa Pamphili, the name is the entire, refers to the entire garden area. And it's a great place to go walking. I have to share with you, it was the first place when we were out of lockdown that I went to, and I took about a 4-hour walk around the park, and it was glorious to be outside and to touch ground after being inside for 11 weeks. Villa Borghese, another beautiful and famous villa. There's this lake here. You can actually take a boat ride. Of course, that would be a little bit difficult to do virtually, but they do have virtual tours of the park itself right now as well. And Parco Acquedotto is an old aqueduct park. And again, they're offering, you can take a look at and explore this park virtually as well. Okay, so those are kind of like city experiences. And I also wanted to put together some more participatory things that you can do from Seattle or New York or Philadelphia, wherever you're located. And these are quite, I think, fun and potentially exciting. So Teatro dell'Opera di Roma is offering online ballet, offering online concerts, and of course, theater as well. So you can have a sort of Roman theater experience right now. I've put a link to their event schedule, and you can participate or be a spectator of numerous different events that they're offering throughout the month. The American Academy of Rome is offering lots of lectures and talks with different fellows that they host. They have been closed all of last year, but actually just reopened and welcomed their first fellows back last month. So definitely encourage you to check out their lectures. They're offering one tomorrow on the history of ghettos, of Jewish neighborhoods in Rome, or in all of Italy. You could take a virtual cooking class. Sandra is an actual friend of mine. You might sort of recognize this terrace. She had been hosting some dinners here on the 422 terrace, the penthouse terrace, but she also offers virtual cooking classes, and she'd be happy to arrange one if you want to learn how to make basically anything Roman. She's also Tuscan, so she does all types of different types of Italian food, and she's a wonderful and engaging character. You can do wine tastings. You could organize a wine tasting with friends from all over the world, in fact. And I've put a link on this page to a woman that's offering wine tastings. You could do a sketching class. This is my friend Kelly. She actually does sketching tours in Rome, but also is offering them virtually right now. And she's quite talented. You could take a language course. I think one thing that's always nice when you're traveling somewhere is to have a little bit of capability to say hello, goodbye, thank you, things like that. And so if you have any interest in going anywhere, I would definitely recommend taking a language course just to get a little bit more flavor of the culture that you're exploring. Rome offers lots of different neighborhood tours, and just like in Seattle and other cities, every neighborhood has a different feel, a different energy, and so you could explore the various neighborhoods of Rome. We're in Campo dei Fiori, it's called Peroni, but there's also Testaccio, there's Trastevere, there's Monti, so many different neighborhoods to explore, and you can do a virtual tour. And Rome, I think not as well known, has a ton of street art, in particularly two neighborhoods, Ostiense and also Pineto. And there are different ways to explore all of the incredible street art work that exists in Rome. Again, virtual tours as well as some presentations that are just online that you can view anytime. I think that's it. So when travel resumes, just want to put a plug in for us. Come study here. We do, again, have lots of programs every year. Normally, we do, cross our fingers, hope to have students back at the end of the summer, hopefully, or with the early fall programs and fall programs. And if you are a faculty member, come teach here. We'd love to have you as well. And I think that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing. Will there be a document? Yes, I'm going to send you guys all of the, did I stop sharing? Hopefully I did. I'm going to send you a link with all of the, with the presentation and all of the photos with links to everything that I gathered for y'all. Any questions? Any other questions, I should say? When is the best time to visit? Like what time of year? You know, it depends, I guess, on kind of what weather you like. Rome is pretty temperate. Of course, I'm like all bundled up because I had gelato beforehand and I got really cold. But I personally think the best time to come in Rome is April, maybe early May, or late September. And that's because one, it's kind of on the fringe or on the edge of major tourist season, but before it's too cold or before it gets too hot in the summertime. And again, the temperature is pretty temperate and it's not too rainy. So I would say April, early May, or late September, early October. Yep, exactly. What's the best way to get around Rome? Good question. So I tend to walk everywhere. I walk way more than I used to walk in Seattle, which makes me wonder why I didn't walk in Seattle, but I don't know. I got into my car. So I love to walk because it's also just a joy to walk around and see the beautiful architecture and the beautiful cobblestone streets and the churches and the fountains and things that you don't even notice, like just like a beautiful window. But of course, it's not necessarily practical if you want to get around. So it quickly, at least, well, I just said quickly, and then I was going to suggest taking the bus, which the bus is always a little bit of a unreliable sort of mode of transportation, but you can take a bus. The metro system is not great around the center. It actually runs more peripheral around the center. So what is interesting is right before lockdown, bikes got, like Uber bikes got very popular. And also then they disappeared like literally overnight during lockdown. And then they reappeared after lockdown overnight. It was very, very strange. But then there's also these monopiedi thing. I don't know what they're called in English, but they're like a skateboard with handlebars. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, they're all, what are they called, Angela? I don't know. Scooters. Okay. We call scooters like mopeds. But those are all over. I personally hate them, but people are using them and apparently they're very efficient. So you could get around that way. What's the time difference? It's 9 hours. We're 9 hours ahead. So it's almost 6 o'clock for us. What else? What district or area is best to live in for a visit? Oh, that was one thing I wanted to add. I think one way to explore a city or get excited about exploring a city is to look at Airbnb. I'd just love to see what kind of apartments are available. But if you're going to do that, I personally think, honestly, staying around Campo dei Fiori, and I admit I'm completely biased, but it's a super centralized place. And there's lots of, oh, ciao, Mindy, I didn't see you on. There are lots of fortunately, unfortunately, there are lots of apartments available through Airbnb around Campo dei Fiori. I love this neighborhood. I think also certain parts of Trastevere are fun. I say certain parts because it does have a lot of American students in certain areas, which might be your bag. But there is also another part just on the other side of Viale Trastevere that's more quiet. It's called Santa Lucia, that side, and that's really lovely. I live in the Jewish ghetto, which is just across, like it's a 5-minute walk from the Rome Center and from Campo dei Fiori, and that's a really nice, very low-key neighborhood. And then also the area around Piazza Navona is really nice. The last kind of area I would say too would be Monti, which is closer over by Termini, the train station, and it's also quite hip and very central. Good access for walking around all of the center. Okay, what other questions do we have? Let's see. Why is it called the ghetto? Is there a better word? So ghetto is actually an Italian word, which means Jewish neighborhood. We, in American English, we've adopted the word ghetto to mean other things, to mean a poor neighborhood. But the word ghetto was originated as the name of Jewish quarters. And the history around Jewish quarters in Italian history is that at a certain point in time, Jewish people were basically contained in and told to live in specific neighborhoods and specific areas, and they weren't allowed to live in any place they wanted to. So when those neighborhoods were formed, they were called ghettos. And they still carry that name, even though, of course, anyone can live there now, and Jewish people can live anywhere in Italy as well. Okay, great. What's your favorite book to read about Italy and Rome? I was thinking I was going to get that question, and I don't know. I need some help here. I've read so many different books. The Agony and the Ecstasy, I really enjoyed. It's about Michelangelo. That's one that I can say I totally enjoyed. But it's been a while. I've read so many different kind of genres of books that take place in Rome or part of Rome. And I can't say that I have a favorite, but oh, no. But I'm definitely interested if others have any suggestions or things that they might have read recently. No. If we want to speak more broadly, just take a step back, I did under the first quarantine, or under the first lockdown, I read the Elena Ferrante books that take place in Napoli, and those are fascinating. So if you want to get a little Southern culture of Italy, I would definitely recommend those. Four Seasons in Rome. Thanks for the suggestion, Susan. Four Seasons in Rome is recommended. All right. So we have a few more moments. Any other questions? Okay, well, I think that might be it. I just want to say thank you all. Oh, how much Italian do you suggest we know? Great question. So, honestly, you can get by with not knowing very much at all. I think the most important thing is buongiorno, how to say hello in the morning. That means good morning. Buonasera is nice. That's how to say good evening. Ciao, of course, it's casual. It's kind of like, hey. Salve is a little bit nicer. That's hello. But I think mostly importantly is un cappuccino. But most Italians do speak enough to get by that you don't really need to know much. But of course, it's always, oh, and grazie. It's always nice to be able to say thank you. Okay. Well, thank you all. It was a pleasure to see you, some familiar faces and many not familiar names, but it was really fun to share Rome, my favorite things. And again, I hope that you can take at least the ideas that I've shared with you about how I would explore this city and take that with you wherever you want to go virtually around the world.
Thank you so much, Emily. The chat is just blowing up with so much love. I think you really made everybody's day here at 8 a.m. to start our week.
Crazy for joining at 8 a.m.
Well, I hope everybody has a great day. I hope you guys have enjoyed this cultural group. Tomorrow night this week is our last week for our dance classes, Tuesday, Thursday at 3 o'clock. And that's with La Clave Cubana. I think tomorrow night, we're learning Rumba. So I'd love for you guys to try it. If you haven't tried it, check out the website. Again, this is the last week for dance. And then in February, we're going to explore the Cultural Fest online. And in March, we're going to explore foods from all over the world. So I hope everybody has a great week. Thanks again so much.
Thank you. Arrivederci.
Thank you.